They locked the doors without saying why. 1 second we were talking about the Harlem Renaissance. The next, the intercom cracked like a whip. Attention. This is a level 3 lockdown. Teachers, secure all doors immediately. No explanation. No warning. I moved on instinct, closed the blinds, hit the lights, pulled the kids to the back wall. Then silence. The kind that presses in on your chest and doesn't let go. My name is Garrison. Welcome to Injustice Black. If you believe our stories deserve to be heard without filters, subscribe and speak in the comments, because silence has never saved us. Ms. Lila Townsend had taught in that same classroom for 23 years. Honors U.S. History, room 206. She knew every sound that school made, every creak in the floor, every snap of the lockers. But this silence? This was different. Behind her, 15 juniors sat huddled in the corner, some crying, some shaking, one trying too hard to look brave. Lila crouched near the door, watching the hallway like it might swallow them whole. She wasn't scared for herself. Not exactly. She was scared of what this would do to them. You learn, when you're black and a teacher, that you can't panic. Not even when you should. Because panic looks like aggression when it comes from you. Fear looks like failure. Anger looks like a threat. So you hold it in. But her hands still trembled. One student whispered, "Miss Townsend, is it a shooter?" She didn't answer right away. She couldn't, because somewhere deep in her chest, it wasn't just fear of a gunman. It was fear of the world outside those classroom walls. The world that don't need bullets to kill a black child's spirit. Lila thought about the last time the school locked down. 2 years ago, false alarm. But they arrested a black student after said he acted suspicious. He was trying to open the wrong door. That was all. They didn't apologize. And then there was the protest. When the kids walked out after George Floyd, Lila didn't tell them to. But she didn't stop them either. That earned her a letter in her file. Quiet punishment. Her mind drifted, slipped backward. She was 15, sitting in a public library. Quiet, just reading with a friend. 2 white girls complained they were being too loud. Police showed up. Didn't ask questions. Just grabbed her wrist and told her to stand. She still remembers the cold of that floor, cheek down, when they cuffed her. You learn early how quickly they can turn you into a suspect. A thud echoed from down the hall. Her students flinched. One girl stifled a scream. Lila breathed deep, stayed still. Some teachers say lockdowns are like drills, like fire alarms. Practice, but not for her. Not for her students. For them, it's different. It's remembering the way security follows them in stores. The way teachers flinch when a black boy raises his voice. The way their lives don't make the news unless there's a body on the ground. Her knees ached. She didn't care. She turned to look at them. Her kids. These kids that the system forgets unless they're playing football or getting suspended. She saw future lawyers, nurses, activists, artists. She saw kids who were trying, even when the world only saw attitude. The intercom clicked again. Static, then. All clear. Repeat. All clear. No explanation. Just over, like they hadn't. Just been holding their breath for 15 minutes straight. Lila stood, legs stiff. She flicked the lights on. The fluorescent bulbs hummed like nothing happened. But something did. She saw it in their eyes, the glassy stares. The way Malik clutched. His backpack like it was a shield. The girl who wouldn't stop rocking back and forth, whispering to herself. They weren't just scared of a shooter. They were scared of being seen as the threat. She straightened her shoulders, took a slow breath, then said softly, "All right. Everyone breathe. You're safe. We're safe." But she didn't believe it, not really, because she knew this wasn't just a lockdown. It was a warning, a reminder, that no matter how long you teach, how much you give, or how gentle you speak ... if you're black, you carry a weight the job description never mentions ... And some days, like today, that weight gets heavy enough to crack you open from the inside out. 3 days after the lockdown, they called her in ... No warning. No subject line in the email. Just a line from the assistant principal that said, "Principal Dorsey would like to speak with you. 3:45 sharp." Ms. Lila Townsend knew that tone. That soft, smiling urgency that black folks get used to decoding. It meant trouble, but wrapped in politeness. So you couldn't call it what it was. She walked in, shoulders straight, face calm. That's how you survive in rooms like that. Never give them your heartbeat. Principal Dorsey and Vice Principal. Klein sat waiting. Both white. Both trying not to look uncomfortable. Klein started talking first. "We've had a concern come through from a parent regarding some of the content displayed on your classroom walls." Lila didn't speak. Just tilted her head. Slightly. Let them fill the silence. Dorsey cleared his throat. "Specifically, the historical timeline you've arranged. The one stretching across the back wall?" Lila gave a slow nod. "Yes. It's very comprehensive," he said, like the word left a bad taste in his mouth. Another silence. Klein jumped in again. One parent felt the imagery and language, particularly in the section referencing lynching and police brutality, was upsetting to their child. Lila finally spoke, calm as ever. "Was it inaccurate?" "No, not inaccurate," Klein said quickly. "Just perhaps too intense." Lila locked eyes with him. "History is intense." Dorsey shifted in his chair. "We're simply asking that you consider a more balanced representation. Broaden the focus. Include more context. Maybe highlight some of the progress we've made as a nation." She looked at him then. Really looked, because there it was. That tired old request dressed up as feedback. Be less black, be less honest. Make it easier for them to look away. The timeline in her room started in 1619. A slave ship, drawn by a former student. Next to it, a chain of key events auction blocks, rebellions, Harriet's escape, Emmett's photo, Selma's bridge, Rodney's beating, Trayvon's hoodie, Ferguson's fire dot. It wasn't decoration. It was truth. Layered, raw, and sacred. She didn't need to explain it to them. But she wanted to burn the words into their desk. Instead, she said quietly, "The civil rights movement didn't happen in isolation. Neither did the backlash that came after it." Dorsey nodded like that meant anything. "We respect that. We do. But our responsibility is to all students. We don't want anyone feeling singled out, or what?" She said, a little sharper now. "Uncomfortable?" He froze, because that word meant something to her. A deep, familiar sting. She had lived her whole life in discomfort, navigating white spaces, policing her tone, accepting less pay, less credit, more blame. Watching white teachers hang posters of Martin, smiling while calling security when Malik raised his hand too fast. She remembered when they told her, as a young teacher, to keep the racial stuff light. Like truth could be softened. Like pain could be dialed down to a school-friendly setting. She stared at them both, her voice steady now. "I teach history, not mythology." They didn't respond. Klein scribbled something in a notebook. Dorsey cleared his throat again. "We're not mandating anything, just ... asking you to consider." She stood slowly, collected her bag. "I'll consider it." That was all she said. But inside, something cracked open. Not from pain, but defiance. She walked back to her classroom with a fire under her ribs. Stared at that timeline for a long while. She thought about taking it down, about making it neutral. Then she remembered the girl who lingered after class last week, asking about Ida B. Wells. The boy, who pointed at the image of Ferguson and said, "That's when my uncle lost his job." She remembered her grandmother's stories about signs that said colored only, about being taught by women who used torn-up textbooks and still made her believe she could be great. That wall wasn't just paper. It was protection. It was memory. And memory, when you're black, is armor. She didn't touch the timeline. Not one piece, because if they wanted neutral, they could go find it in a textbook that skipped 400 years. But in her room, her students would get the full story, even if it made somebody squirm. Especially then. He didn't stand. Not on Monday, not on Tuesday, not once that whole week. Every morning when the pledge came on, Malik stayed in his seat. Back straight, eyes forward. Hands still. Silent. 16. Years old. Honor roll. Sharp tongue. Sharper mind. The kind of boy who sees straight through people's masks and has no time for pretending. The other kids noticed, of course. One or two followed his lead, nervously. Some whispered. A couple side-eyed him like he was asking for trouble. Ms. Lila. Townsend said nothing. She watched him, but she didn't stop him, because sometimes not standing is the loudest thing you can do. On Thursday, she asked him to stay after class. Just him. No punishment. No office referral. Just a chair across from hers. The weight of truth between them. "You want to tell me what that's about?" she asked gently. He didn't answer right away. Just shrugged like the words were too heavy to carry. Then he said, "Ain't no liberty and justice for us. That's what it's about." She didn't flinch. Just nodded. The next day, he stayed after again. This time, he talked. "My brother got locked up for a joint," he said. "One joint. 3 years probation. Lost his job. Now he can't even vote." Leela listened. No corrections. No teacher. Face. Just silence, and her full attention. "My mama been working at that clinic for 8 years. Same white girl with less experience got made manager. They told my mama she needs to smile more if she wants to move up." He chuckled bitterly. Smile more. What that got to do with anything? Lila didn't smile, because she knew she'd been told the same thing. Smile more. Be grateful. Don't make people uncomfortable. Be smaller than your truth. He came in every day that week. Never asked if he could stay. Just lingered until the room emptied. Some days he spoke. Some days he sat. On Friday, he looked her in the eye and said, "I ain't trying to disrespect you, Miss Townsend. I just can't pretend no more." She said, "Then don't." He stared at her like he didn't expect that. "Just know," she added, "some people will try to make you pay for standing still." The next Monday, Principal Dorsey stopped her in the hallway. Closed door, lowered voice. "I've received reports you've been encouraging protest behavior during the pledge." She blinked slowly. "Encouraging?" "Yes, a student refusing to participate. Several others possibly influenced. Parents are starting to ask questions." She kept her voice calm. "I haven't told anyone what to do. I just listened." Dorsey leaned forward like they were co-conspirators. "That's exactly the problem, Lila. These things spread, especially when they feel validated." She bit her tongue so hard, hurt. Validated. Like his pain was a virus. She wanted to scream. "You think his silence is dangerous, but you're fine with the lie we make him repeat every morning?" She didn't scream. She just said, "Noted," and walked away. Malik kept sitting, and Lila kept teaching, because sometimes teaching isn't in the lesson plan. Sometimes it's in the pause you give a child to breathe. Sometimes it's the seat you don't make them leave. Sometimes it's letting them be, black and brilliant and bruised, without demanding they put on a costume for your comfort. One afternoon, after everyone left, Malik looked up from his desk and asked, "You ever feel Like you got a fire in your chest, and it don't go nowhere? She sat beside him, took a long breath. Every day, she said. He nodded. That was all. But in that moment, something passed between them. Not pity, not fear, not understanding, not the kind only passed from one wounded soul to another. She couldn't save him from the world. She couldn't promise they'd ever see him the way she did, but she could hold space for his rage, his truth, and she could let him know without saying it. That standing still can be its own kind of fight. It started with a sound clip, 32 seconds long. Shaky video phone pointed at the floor, but the voices were clear. At Malik kid? Thinks he's some kind of activist now. He's just another thug with an attitude problem. Then laughter. A second voice chimed in, also white, also a teacher. Ms. Townsend's probably coaching him. She loves playing Harriet Tubman in a pantsuit. More laughter, and then silence. The clip was anonymous. No one knew who recorded it, or why. But someone sent it to a student, and that student sent it to another. Within hours, it was on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. By noon, it had 100,000 views. By 3 o'clock, Lila was sitting in an office with HR and 2 district administrators she'd never met before. The door shut behind her like a warning. They didn't ask if she was okay. They asked if she'd made the recording. She blinked. No. Did you authorize anyone to record in the faculty lounge? It's not my lounge to authorize, she replied. They pressed on, implying, not quite, accusing, but close enough. Ms. Townsend, this is a serious breach of workplace trust. This type of internal conflict creates division, and from what we understand, you've already been fostering an environment of political tension. There it was. Not the racism, not the slur, not the violation of a child's dignity. No. The problem was her. She was written up, placed on administrative leave pending investigation, which is just sanitized language for go sit down while we decide if you're a threat to our comfort. They told her to stay home, not to speak to media, not to respond to emails from students. But the students didn't wait for permission. The next morning, Malik posted a letter, white text on black screen, no hashtags, no selfies. Just his words. Ms. Townsend saved me. He wrote about how nobody ever asked him why he was angry before her. How she never tried to make him small. How he started believing he mattered the first time she let him stay after class without calling it detention. He wrote, if y'all punish her for telling the truth, then don't act shocked when we stop trusting you. By nightfall, the letter had been reposted by alumni, local reporters, and a few national pages. Other students spoke up too. Videos, screenshots, stories from years past. One girl wrote about how Ms. Townsend helped her mom get a job interview when they didn't even have a car. Another boy said she was the first person to notice he stopped eating lunch and brought him food without making it a thing. The school board didn't know what to do with any of it. Half the community called her a hero. The other half called her a radical. Some parents emailed the district demanding her termination. Others showed up in front of the school with cardboard signs. Let Lila teach. But inside her house, Lila sat at her kitchen table with a cup of cold tea and a knot in her chest, because none of this was new. Racism rarely announces itself with slurs anymore. It hides behind policies, tone checks, passive emails. It smiles while it bleeds you. She wasn't surprised. They believed she was the problem. She was just tired of proving herself twice over, only to be doubted the third time. Tired of building bridges while they set fire to the foundation. Tired of being the one who had to stay calm while others got to be cruel. But the messages kept coming, from students, from parents, from teachers, some anonymous, some brave enough to sign their names. You gave us something real. You made us feel seen. You reminded me why I started teaching. She hadn't meant to start a fire. She just told the truth. And sometimes, in this country, that's all it takes to be branded dangerous. But Malik's words stayed with her. Ms. Townsend saved me. That wasn't about a grade or a lesson. It was about a boy who learned that stillness can be power, and a woman who refused to kneel in the face of silence. They could write her up. They could push her out, but they couldn't take that from her. The invitation came on a Wednesday. A white envelope slipped into her mailbox at the school. She hadn't set foot in for 31 days. The district invites you to speak at the upcoming Community Unity Assembly. Polished language, careful punctuation. No apology. They didn't ask her to return to teach, just to stand on stage and perform calm. But still, she went. Not for them, for the ones watching, for the ones who never got a mic, but always had something to say. The gym was full that day. Parents in folding chairs. Teachers lined along the walls. Students sitting on the floor, their eyes shifting between the stage and the exits. Lila sat in the front row. Hair pressed, blouse buttoned to the top, shoulders still. They called up speakers one by one. The principal spoke first, his voice round and safe, about healing and moving forward. A PTA mother read a quote about unity and respect. A local pastor prayed over the crowd. Then they called her name. Some clapped. Some didn't. She walked to the microphone slow, like she had all the time in the world. No papers in hand. No speech. Just her memory. She looked out at the crowd. Found Malik in the third row. Found his eyes. Let them steady her. And then she spoke. I was arrested when I was 14 years old for being loud in a library. The room shifted. I was doing a school project with 2 other girls. We were laughing. A white woman told us to hush. I said, "We're working." She called security. Told them we were being aggressive. She paused. No one asked what we were reading. They put us in handcuffs. They called our parents like we were criminals. All because our voices didn't sound soft enough to belong. The room was quiet. Even the air felt still. I became a teacher because I never wanted another black child to believe that silence was the only way to survive. She scanned the crowd, her voice calm, her back unbent. And I became a good teacher, not because I followed every rule, but because I saw the kids who weren't allowed to be complicated. The ones who sat too still or moved too much. The ones who didn't stand. The ones who asked why. A parent stood up, walked out. Another followed. She didn't flinch. Some people believe telling the truth causes division, but silence doesn't make unity. It just makes the powerful comfortable. She looked at the principal, looked through him. I've been told to smile more, to tone it down, to consider the full scope of history. She let that hang, and every time I hear that, I wonder whose comfort are we protecting? The room was still. I'm not here to be palatable. I'm here to be honest, because honesty is the only way these students, our students, learn that their voices matter. Another long pause. She let it breathe. I didn't leak a video. I didn't start a protest. All I did was refuse to lie to children. She stepped back from the mic. Didn't wait for claps. Didn't need them. She was turning to leave when she heard it. A chair scraping against the floor. Malik stood up. No words, no gesture. Just stood. Then the girl next to him stood. Then another, and another. Row by row, student by student. Some teachers joined. Some didn single quotes t. No cheering. No noise. Just standing. It wasn't applause. It was something deeper. Recognition. Respect. And for the first time in weeks, Lila felt the knot in her chest loosen. She didn't smile, but her eyes shone, because she knew what that silence meant. It meant she had told the truth, and they had heard her. Not everyone, but enough to know she wasn't alone. Enough to remember why she began. Sometimes, standing up doesn't look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like being still while others squirm.